Hey, what's going on, guys? Let's talk about some autopilot decks. Oh wait, let's talk about players just aren't good at Yu-Gi-Oh! So a term that's been coined in Yu-Gi-Oh! For probably a long time now is that deck's autopilot when it's too good or too consistent, which I think is complete utter shit because technically every deck's autopilot. And I'd like to tell you why. Well, from what people throw around is an autopilot deck is a deck that you can give to a player that's very, very not skilled or doesn't really know Yu-Gi-Oh! At all, and they can win with it. But at the same time, it's also a deck that goes and does the same play. It goes for the same thing every time, it does that, you're going for these plays, so it's autopilot. You don't have to really think about doing anything because that's what you're going to go do when you play the deck. You're going to make that card, there's no other things to do. Well, this isn't 2004 anymore, there's archetypes, so every deck's going to do its one thing. That's the one thing I don't understand. We'll get to the other fact about why it's, not autopilot, but the one right now that always bothers me is that when they say a deck's autopilot, and they're using it as the term that you're going for the same play, like, all you have to do is play these cards and you go for that. No shit, every deck does that. And I don't care what you say. Every deck goes to a play. Some might take more skill to one, some may not. They might be a little easier than each other, but most of the ones, they don't require more skill, it's just more to get through it. Spellbooks. Spellbooks are a skill deck after you learn it, I suppose. It's just a lot of reading. It's not really that hard of a deck to figure out if you just want to take the time and read it. But they go for the same stuff usually. Now, they can do some side things with Fate and all of that, but it's no different than a deck doing some side things with a Dark Hole or something like that. All decks go for the same play. Not the same one as each deck, but they go for the same thing. Bujins, Yamato, Boxers, Lead Yoke, Spellbooks, Priestess, or World, Agents, Master Hyperion. Though Karakuri or Yurio Karakuri or blah, whatever, they go for multiple things, but it's usually Beret and Burrito or whatever his name is, you know, those cards. Six Samurai, Shein, Dino Rabbit, Logia, or Dolka. Now, there are some other things that they don't go for the same thing, but they go for the same thing to get their other things. But I do agree, though, decks like Synchron's, if you're not going for Quasar, you're just playing a Synchro, you know, sync up. Synchron's, Go-Go's, for example, any rank 4 spam deck, you have a whole range of monsters that you try to go to. So there is a break in that there are decks that can go into multiple things for situations, but then there's a lot of decks that, no matter what the situation, they're pretty much going for the same thing. Like in most situations, if you're playing Bujins, you're going for Yamato. No matter what, you're getting Yamato. I digress, though. That's kind of counteract to that point. There are pros or cons, so I know you're probably sitting there like, oh no, there are decks that do so different things. They do, I agree. There are some decks that don't do the same thing. But there are tons of decks that don't get labeled autopilot that do the same thing as autopilot decks. That's more my argument at this point. Now for the whole thing that autopilot decks are only good, you can give to a bad player or a player you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! And they can win with it. Bullshit. It's not that I'm dumb, but when Dragon Rollers first came out, I was like, what the fuck do I even do? I was like such a dumbass on DevPro. People are probably super raging. I was like, so I banished 2, but I can only use their effect once, so I was like, the fuck? But then Dragon Rollers became the deck that was autopilot. Of course, I do agree that it was super fast, but that doesn't make it autopilot. You can't just give that to somebody. And an unskilled player will suck at Dragon Rollers. I've seen it, Asian Eyes posted videos of it, I bet other people have seen it. It's possible. Same with Spellbook, same with Wind Up, same with any deck that's super consistent and fast. Well, Spellbooks with Judgment. Now, you give that to a player who doesn't know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh!, they're not going to do anything. And I mean play as in they get the basics. Why would you be giving a deck that somebody that doesn't even know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! In the first place? I hate when people make that argument. Oh, if I gave so-and-so 6 Sams, they could win with it. They don't know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! They're probably going to just sit there and lose. Yeah, they're not going to win. Yeah, I get it's a coined term just to say how fast it is and it's consistent. It's fucking stupid. If you give somebody an autopilot deck, they have to be good at the game. Autopilot deck, whatever. Wind-ups, you still had to be good at the game to know what you had to do. You had to know what plays to make, what given time, all of that. That's with any deck. Just because a deck is fast and consistent and can pull off really well good plays does not make it autopilot. We're not in a fucking jet and you flip a switch and sit back. And like my argument I said before, not all, but a good amount of decks that aren't considered autopilot go to the same play, which would be like autopilot. And some of them are more simpler than the decks that are labeled autopilot. It's just a bunch of people being bitter that their decks are they're getting owned by these expensive decks they can't afford, or how bad they are at Yu-Gi-Oh! And yes, I can understand, this could go with my video of whining, but this is a separate thing because this is just about one term. If you lose by a deck, except you lost to it, that you got outplayed or something like that, it's not because the deck's autopilot. That makes no, it's a bad term that better Yu-Gi-Oh! Players use. And if you're using it in good fun, that's another thing. Like, that deck's so autopilot. that's a whole nother thing. If you're serious and you're pissed because you just lost a tournament, that guy's autopilot, he cheated and all this, go over there. Go, nobody wants to deal with your ass. Alright, that's all I had to say. I just thought, I saw some people talking about on a forum about autopilot decks, and I thought it was complete doo-doo butter, so I thought I should talk a bitch about it, even though those people on the forum probably aren't going to see this video. I'm not mad at anybody, just, I don't know, something to make a video about. Anyways, that's enough of me babbling, and more babbling, but thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, thumbs it up, share it. If you know somebody who says autopilot decks, give it to them. They'll probably be a little upset at you, but you know, whatever, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes, right? Yeah. And look at that cat. That's an awesome cat. I'll see you later, guys. Peace!